Hello everyone, and welcome to the 12th and final episode of Britain and Ireland in OpenTTD. Real quick, this is the Liverpool and Towns and South Lancashire Railway, owned by the Great Central. And this isn't going to be the final episode altogether, it's just going to be the final one of this season. We're going to do some one-off specials before I do the next season, like cab ride videos, that kind of thing. And I've got a few ideas to do for the next season, because there's not going to be much building in the next season. I'll get onto that a little bit later. Now I have the Kent and the Great Western extending from Pilning to Avonmouth via Severn Beach to create a loop line. And now we have the Kent and East Sussex Railway opening between Roberts Bridge and Wolverton via Tenterden. And the Great Northern extending from Nottingham Racecourse to Nottingham Victoria via the high level lines through their station. I can't remember the name of it. And the Lancashire, Derbyshire and East Coast Railway building a branch line to Bayton, where it links up with the Midland Main Line to access Sheffield directly through the Sheffield District Railway. My asthma's acting up today, so sorry about that. The Great Western building a branch line to Banbury. One of the Preston Fishergate Still station closing. And this is the Sturton Westbury Railway, which is just a bypass of Devizes. This is by the Great Western. Over in Ireland, Donegal Railway is building its own line from Strabane to Londonderry. The station at Londonderry is Victoria Road. Excuse me. And the London North Western building a new suburban line into Leeds from Huddersfield via Birstall. And a few lines in Ireland being absorbed by the Great Southern Western. And then North Staffordshire building a branch line from Cresswell to Cheadle. And this is the Sheffield and Midland Joint Committee, extending from Kilnhurst to Shireoaks. And this is the Bideford, Westwood Hoe and Appledore Railway, just a small light railway, low standard gauge. Now we have the West Highland Extension, a very famous line from Fort William at Bannerby all the way through to Mallaig, crossing the famous Glenfinnan Viaduct. And also put in a ship sailing down, I'm not sure what lock that is, but from Glenfinnan, because there used to be one. And this is... Sorry, I'm a bit lost. What's going on here? Oh yeah, this is the Lauder Light Railway. Just a very small light railway in Scotland, one of the very few. From Fountain Hall on the Waverley line to Lauder. And this is the Londonderry and Loxley Railway, extending its line from Buncran up to Cardona. And now we have the Shebby Light Railway, which is just a branch line from Queenborough to Laysdown-on-Sea. And now we'll have the Lead Hills and One Lockhead Railway, which today is open as a miniature railway, or at least part of it is. The line also accessed a bunch of copper mines in the area, which I'll then link up to the industry system we have. And this is the Gifford and Garfield Railway. And then the Great Northern building its Lean Valley extension lines from Pinkston up to Shirebrook. Then this is the bunch of mergers in East Lincolnshire. And the North British Railway, building a branch line from near Haymarket to Costerfield. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but it's an area in Edinburgh. I think I'm very, very quiet, so I'm just going to turn myself up a bit. There we go. And then the Hull and South Yorkshire Extension Railway, which is just a branch line of the Hull and Barnsley Railway. The line went down to Wath, where then linked up with the Great Central and the Midland. And the Caledonian, extending from Strathaven to Davil to link up with the Glasgow and South Western. And this is the Dornoch Light Railway, from Maunder Junction to Dornoch, operated by the Highland. And the Whitechapel and Bow Railway, which is jointly owned by the District Railway and London Tilbury and Southend, which linked the District Railway up to the main line there, which allowed district line trains to run to Barking. And this is the Aylesbury and Military Camp Light Railway, opening from Greatley to Bulford, owned by the London and South Western. And the Midland Railway building its own direct line from near New Mills down to Stockport. At Stockport, it then joined up with the Cheshire Lines Committee to access Liverpool. And the Midland Railway building the branch line to Grassington, which is today still open for freight. And then this is the Eastern and Church Hope Railway, which is just a light railway. And then we have the Vale of Rydal Railway, which is a narrow gauge line from Aberystwyth to Devil's Bridge. And the Midland and South Western Junction Railway building a branch line from Ludgerthal to Tirith, where there's another military camp. And the Glasgow and South Western Railway building a line from Paisley Canal to Barhead Central. Over in Ireland, the Londonderry and Lough Swilly Railway is extending to where is it? Letterkenny to Burtonport. It's been a very, very long time since I've recorded one of these. I've just been so busy I started a new job and then I went on holiday for a week. We have a closure here. The Wigtonshire Railway closing from Mill Isle to Garleyston, which is just a very short branch line, so that's just a very small closure. Great Eastern is building a loop line from Woodford to Ilford via Hainault and Barkingside. And this is the Welsh Boon and Llanfair Railway, which is owned by the Cambrian, and today it is still open as a heritage railway. And the Great Western Railway building starting its a new main line from Old Oak Common to West Ealing via South Greenford. Then we'll have the Meon Valley Railway between Alton and Knowle, which is just outside Farnham. And then the Great Western Railway building a branch line from Chasewater near Truro to Perranporth. And in the same month, building a huge bypass line from Wooden Bazet near Swindon to Patchway. This is to bypass trains travelling to South Wales, like around Bristol, because the area around Tremplemeads is getting very congested. Over in East Anglia, the Norfolk and Suffolk Joint Railway is building a new line from Yarmouth Beach to Lowestoft Central. And one of the major railways in Ireland, the Belfast and Northern Counties Committee, has just been absorbed by the Midland Railway. And this is the Invergarry and Fort Augustus Railway, which is a branch line originally intended to go from Fort William all the way to Inverness, but got reduced to a branch line just from Speenbridge to Fort Augustus on the bottom of Loch Ness. However, I do put in a ferry service along Loch Ness into Inverness. I don't think I meant to record this, but I'm leaving it in anyway. We'll discuss this line a little bit more in the special episode that I'm going to be doing after this. I'm going to do a few special episodes, each houses its own focus, in preparation for the next series. This is the Great North of Scotland Railway, building a very small branch line light railway to St Combs, and the Highland Railway, building a small light railway from Wick to Libster. Now we have the Caledonian, building a branch line from Connell-Felly to Ballyshulis, which is originally intended to go all the way up to Fort William, and we'll discuss this again a bit more in the special episode, but this is actually intended part of a scheme to get all the way to Inverness. Now we'll have the Axholme Joint Railway opening from near Goole to two termini, one in Crowell and one in Foggerby. And this is a joint railway between the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway and the North Eastern Railway. And the London South Western, building a branch line to Line Regis. And this is the new express service, the Hook Continental, between Liverpool Street and Harwich Parkston Quay, where they're connected with the ferry across to Amsterdam. And now we have the Leek and Manifold light railway from Waterhouses to Hulmond. The Waterhouses did eventually connect up with the branch line of the North Staffordshire, but that branch line wasn't actually complete at the time of the Leek and Manifold opening. And this is the Lanarkshire and Ayrshire Railway, building its main line, completely bypassing the joint railway, to Newton, where linked up with the Cathcart Circle Railway into Glasgow. And this is the Tannet Valley Light Railway, which is currently being slightly preserved. Well, part of it is being preserved. This is the Great Northern City Railway, opening from Moorgate Street, to Finsbury Park, where it joined up with the Great Northern. Over in Ireland, the Dublin, Dublin, Wicklow and Wexford Railway is extending from New Ross to Waterford North. And the Cork, Blackrock and Passage Railway is converting to narrow gauge and also extending from Passage to Crosshaven. This is because the ships were getting bigger and bigger and couldn't fit up the small channel to Passage, so a new ferry terminal was built at Crosshaven. This is the Lochernhead, St Fillan's and Comrie Railway, opening from Comrie to Balquhidder, where then linked up with the Oban line, the Callander and Oban Railway. And this is the express service, the Cornishman, being withdrawn and replaced with the new Cornish Riviera Express. And this is the Harrow and Uxbridge Railway, which is by the Metropolitan, from Harrow on the Hill to Uxbridge, via Ruislip, or is it Ruislip? I'm not sure. This is the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway, opening from Hawley Junction to Laxfield. And the Midland Railway extending its line from Morecambe Promenade to Heysham Harbour. And then we'll have the Tollesbury Light Railway. Now, we're nearly halfway through this video, but we're only in 1904, and that's just because everything after this, just not much happened, really. I was originally in this episode only going to go to 1910, and then the next episode will be the finale. But I just managed to get about 10 hours of footage for the full 1900 to 1923. This is the Cashel Railway by the Great Southern and Western Railway. And the Axome Joint Railway being extended from Crowell down to Haxey Junction. And the Great Western extending its branch line from Perranporth to link up with Newquay. Now we'll have a new express line, which is express service, which is called the Sunny South Express, between Liverpool Lime Street and then ran directly to Brighton. Only stopping at Kensington Olympia on the outskirts of London. Now have the Caledonia Railway building new suburban lines around Paisley. And this one ran from Paisley St James to Lion Cross on the Lanarkshire and Ayrshire Railway. And also ran into the other side of Paisley. These lines never actually opened to passenger traffic, and that's because the trams in Paisley just opened a few years earlier, and it was directly serviced from Paisley into Glasgow and ran every few minutes, so the trains just couldn't compete. This is the Carn Valley Railway from Dumfries to Monavie. And this is the Ponteland Railway in Newcastle. and the Seaham branch being extended to Hart, just outside Hartlepool. And this is Letchworth Garden City opening, a brand new garden town. And the Canton East Sussex Rail will be completed to Headcorn Junction. And then the Waterhouses branch of the North Staffordshire I mentioned earlier. The Caledonian building more branch lines in South Lanarkshire, this one via Larkhall and Stonehouses to Strathaven. And the Donegal Railway, building a branch line from Donegal to Ballyshannon. And this is the Wickham Railway, between High Wycombe and Aylesbury, transferring to a new joint committee, which is the Great Western and Great Central Joint Railway. And then this is a new express line being built from several places in London to High Wycombe, where this line becomes the new joint line. And then after Princes Risborough, a new line was built via Brill to Haddenham, where the line then split into two privately owned sections. The Great Western one linked up just south of Banbury, and the Great Central one linked up just south of Woodford Halls, which gave both of those companies a new access line to London. Is it the Borden Light Railway? Just a small branch line to Borden by the London South Western. Waterford South Station in Ireland is closing, and all the services are being transferred to Waterford North. And a new line being constructed from Banbridge down to Newcastle in County Down. And the Great Western building a new cut-off line from Langport to Castlecarry via Somerton. This is the Grimsby District Light Railway opening from Grimsby to Ilsby via a new town of Immingham. The docks at Grimsby were just getting so overcrowded, the Great Central just decided to develop the village of Immingham into a full-fledged town. This is the Maidens and Denier Light Railway, opening from Ayr down along the coast to Girvan, via the Heads of Ayr holiday camp. And then the Bankfoot Light Railway to a tiny village of Bankfoot. The Great Western extending from Honeybourne to Cheltenham, giving itself a new cross-country route from Birmingham to Cheltenham via Stratford. And this is the Kincardine and Dunfermline Line Railway, which is a new line along the Fife coast. And then we'll have a narrow gauge railway in Scotland, from Campbelldown to Backrinish. And the Great Southern and Western, extending its line from Waterford to Rosslare. And at the same time building a new direct line from Clarbeston Road up to Fishguard, and building a brand new ocean terminal there. The Norfolk and Suffolk Joint Railway, extending its line from Mundersley-on-Sea through Cromer, passing through both stations of Cromer. And then we'll have the King Edward Bridge in Newcastle. And now the North Lindsey Light Railway, opening from Scunthorpe to Whitton, owned by the Great Central. And the Great Western building yet another branch line into Uxbridge. And now this is the Nid Valley Light Railway, from Paisley Bridge, where the current termini is, to Lofthouse. And now the Western Clevedon and Portishead Railway, completing its line up to Portishead. And the Great Western building a new railway from Birmingham to Stratford-upon-Avon. This is to complement its new cross-country line, as the only way to access Stratford before that was to reversal at Leamington Spa. And this is the London South Western building a branch line to Callington via Bear-Alstock. Sorry, from Bear-Alston to Callington via Gunners Lake. The Knott End Railway opening from Pilning to Knott End, across the water from Fleetwood. And the Cleobury, Mortimer and Ditta Priors Light Railway. And this is the London North Western building a bypass line from Wilmslow, just south of Stockport, into Manchester via Style. It was intended to be used as a bypass line, but then none of the expresses actually ended up using it because it bypassed Stockport, ironically. So it just became a small suburban line. Now have a new joint railway, the South Yorkshire Joint Railway from Kirk Sandal, bypassing Doncaster to Anston, which is a primarily freight line. And the County Donegal Railways Joint Committee, extending from Strabane up to Letterkenny. Newcastle Newbridge Street station closing, and a new line being built into Manners. And all the trains there being redirected into Newcastle Central, forming a loop line. It's kept open as a good station though. This is the Castleblaney, Keady and Armagh railway, opening from Armagh to Keady. And the London North Western building a branch line to Benchladdock. At Red Wharf Bay. And this is a new express. This is the Five Coast Express from Glasgow Queen Street to St Andrews. St Andrews, only stopping at a few stops along the Five Coast. This is so businessmen could live on the Five Coast and then commute into Glasgow every morning. And then the Great Western completing its own section of the new main line from Haddenham via Bicester to Banbury. And the Great Northern building a new loop line from Enfield to Hertford. And the Great Western just building a new direct line from Pilning, with the current site of Bristol Parkway, down to Avonmouth. And the Castleblaney, Keady and Armagh railway, completing its line from Keady to Castleblaney. And this is the Lampeter, Aberavon and New Quay railway, which is just a light railway from Lampeter to Aberavon. The southeastern closing between Strood and Chatham. Since that one and the London Chatham Dover merged, there was no need to have two duplicate lines into Strood. The Great Western building a bypass line through Swansea, known as the Swansea District Line. Now the Grimsby and Immingham Electric Railway, which was a tram line to carry passengers from the new town of Immingham to Grimsby. London North Western building a branch line to Croxley Green, just outside Watford. And the North British introducing a new service, New Express, from Glasgow Queen Street to Longridge and Dunbar. This is called the Lothian Coast Express, which served the same purpose as the Five Coast Express, to allow businessmen to live in the nice resorts on the coast and work in Glasgow. This is the Dean Valley Railway, opening from Wakefield Kirkgate to Rossington, just outside of Doncaster. And this is the Tickhill Light Railway, which was intended to be a new cross-country line from to link all the coalfields of South Yorkshire to the new port at Scunthorpe in Goole via the Axholme Joint Railway, but it only really just got a very small passenger service. And this is the Derwent Valley Light Railway, extending from Weldrake down to, opening from Weldrake just outside of Selby up to York. And this is the Thaxted branch line, a light railway. There's the Derwent Valley completing its line. Now, we're going into World War I now, so there's going to be a lot of closures because as wartime measures basically, but also all the railways have been temporarily took over by the War Department and introduced a new express exclusively for troops travelling up from London to Scapa Flow, where the entire British fleet was based. And this is the Jellicoe Express from London Euston all the way up to Thurso. Made several stops along the way, but these weren't actually for boarding and alighting. This is just so people, the workers of the stations could come out and give the soldiers refreshments. We're already seeing some closures, such as the Highland between Keith Junction and Portessie, and the closure, the Thameslink Tunnel from Blackfriars to Moorgate, and the Halifax High Level Railways closing as well, and the Furness between Ulverston and Conishead Priory. There is a new railway opening here, which is actually very rare for wartime. Although it was originally going to be open for passengers as well, but that never was the case. They couldn't afford to build all the stations and open them, so it's just a new freight line, which is the Hull and Barnsley and Great Central Joint Railway. There was also a lot of electrification during this time, although the electric vehicles in this in the OpenTTD aren't actually available till 1920, so that's going to be one of the first episodes of Series 2. The London South Western between Hammersmith and Turnham Green is transferring to the District Railway. And this is the East Kent Railway opening from Shepherd's Well through to Wingham and Sandwich. Another closure between Hampton in Arden and Whittaker Junction, and between Basford and Ilkeston. And there was the Glasgow South Western's line from Paisley Canal to Barhead Central, that's another closure. As well as the Colford Railway in South Wales. And the line from Titley Junction down to Erdesley. The branch line from South Acton to Hammersmith. And the branch line to Greenwich Park. And as the line we only just opened earlier in this episode, which was the Byford, Westford, Hoe and Appledore Railway. The Great Central's branch line from Wrexham to Brimbo is another closure. However, the Great Northern is the Great Central is extending from Kirkby and Ashfield to Edmonstone. Via Mansfield. London North Western closing between Batley and Birstall, as is the new station in Birstall anyway. The Great Northern completing its loop line from Cuffley, just outside Hertford, to Stevenage. And the Hazelden Joint Railway. However, there's a new Garden Town, which is Welwyn Garden City. Glasgow and Paisley Joint Railway branch to Ibrox is closing. Though we do have a new, although now we're in the early 20s, we're finishing up with the Cambrian Coast Express from London Paddington all the way to Aberystwyth. And the South Eastern introducing the Kentish Bell from London Victoria to Ramsgate. We'll just have a very few small things left, so I'm going to outro the series in live in a few moments, so I'll see you on the other side. And with that, I think we're done, you know. That was the last that was the last proper episode of Series 1. Series 1 is the pre-grouping era, and although it says December 1916 in-game, I've done all of the actions required up until the grouping of 1923. That'll be the very first thing we'll do in the next season. So I'm not sure when the next season will start, because there's a few things I want to wrap up until then. One of which is I've been doing a lot of the freight work off camera. For example, we're doing a lot of, I think the last freight live stream I done was all of Wales. Since then I've done most of Birmingham, Manchester and Liverpool, for example, if you look here. I've cleared this up, we have, now we go, fibres going to Hatfield. And Liverpool, I've made the docks functional. I have a dock at Garston. And I've also managed to include zinc being mined on the Isle of Man, being dug up here and here, and then shipped down to Douglas. We'll have Bergenhead oil refineries. I don't know why it's not. Oh, it's because the ships are nearly there. And then I've planned out the freight, but I haven't actually put the trains in for West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire, and the East Midlands. I remember seeing a comment about the Middleton Railway, and I've put it in here as a little coal railway that links this colliery down to the main line just outside Leeds here. It's just a representation. I know it's not perfect. I know it would be a little bit more like over here. It's the best I can do, really. But we will put that in as a preserved railway when the time comes. Gala shields. Alright. Another thing I mentioned was the electrification. I couldn't. We do actually have electric trains now. If we go here, look, electrified railways at the third rail. However, I'm going to save that because it was so late in the episode that it arrived. I'm also going to dedicate a whole episode to that in the next series. Up until the next series, so a few things in between. For example, I'm going to do a few live streams to get this freight finished off, maybe just one or two for Leeds. And I'm going to do more cab rides. And now all the other railways in place and all the different branch lines that you can see from the train are in place, as well as all the freight trains that will be passing. What lines I'm going to do, I'm not sure. I know I'm going to redo the east and west coast. Maybe not as far as like Aberdeen and Inverness though, maybe just as far as Edinburgh and Glasgow respectively. And then I'll do separate trains to go from Edinburgh northwards. Same with the I'll do probably 1 or 2 main lines from each company. So so maybe the southeastern main line, the Brighton main line, the southwestern main line. I'll decide that later. But that's something I'm going to be doing in between the series. And then there's just be improvements, quality of life things. For example, I'm forever fixing congestion, like in traffic jams. Is this one? Nope, it's all moving. I'm sure if I look around enough, I'll find one. But it's just basically places where the signalling, found one. The signalling I've put in a dodgy place. For example, here, this train has just had to stop because this one has just left the station. So I'm going to fix that. Like so, and now this train I'll be able to leave it on pause. Yep, there we go. So that's it. That's the end of the series. Well, this series. Ireland was actually finished, I think, probably the last episode, apart from a couple of little narrow gauge extensions up here. Although it'll feature a lot in the first episode of the next series because of the Irish Civil War and the partition. Also, I will be doing a lot of town renaming when that happens. For example, Kingstown, Maryborough, Queenstown, that kind of thing. I think there's a couple of others around here as well. Let's have a look, actually. I swear there is another one. Oh no, it's the station names. The station names changed, but I don't think they did until the 60s. It was to celebrate, yeah, I think it was 66, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Easter Rising, which actually in 1916. So let's have a quick look over the different features of the network. Just a quick scan over the country to see what we've done. Starting it down in Penzance. Actually, yeah, let's start up in where it all started. Where it all started is this line right here. We've closed some of it, just this little section here, when the trains were redirected through Banktop. But the oldest section we built was this colliery here, through Shildon and Aycliffe and Darlington to Stockton. And since then quite a few things have changed. Obviously this branch to Bishop Auckland has opened, the branch from Aycliffe on the Clarence Railway has opened. Aycliffe has a big aluminium plant. Darlington has changed tons. Branched here from Yarm and Eaglescliffe, and the station in Stockton has been replaced, as well as all of the junctions around here being completely reworked from scratch. Middlesbrough become a massive city. If you remember, it was only about 46 population or something that small when we first started, and that's, well, it's realistic, that's what happened. The town just exploded once the railways arrived. What other things do we have? Well, there's a Newcastle and Carlisle. That was another very early one we did. A few things have changed since then, though. Obviously, Newcastle Central has changed and grew loads. We have the King Edward Bridge, and I know that's not actually what the King Edward Bridge looks like, but for some reason I can't get this road bridge to look like the Tyne Bridge, so I've had to put this one in as like whatever was accurate, and then this one is like our representation of the Tyne Bridge. Anyway, Newcastle and Carlisle, not actually that much has changed other than a couple of branch lines. This is a very early one as well. Actually, what it was called, it was the Cumberland Iron. I don't know. We've got the what's it called? Edinburgh and Dalkeith. From St Leonard's. This bit's going upgraded to double track, as well as, well, being transformed into one of the main lines from London to Scotland, basically. The Muscle branch is still going strong. Also have a few of the colliery railways in Coatbridge. Sorry, my asthma's still going on, that's why I had to kind of take a break inside there. Yeah, the few colliery, this hasn't been touched at all, other than the rolling stock's been changed to a steam rail motor. In real life it was re-gauged because it was originally built to Scotch gauge, which was slightly narrower than standard gauge. Coatbridge has actually been transformed into a huge rail centre. There's probably more rails than people here. And the line through steps of the Glasgow, Gart, Sherry and Coatbridge, was it? That's been transformed into a main line into Buchanan Street. And then we'll have the Liverpool and Manchester, that's a good one to mention. Lime Street, that's the same. It was originally going to Crown Street in reality, but I put it in as Lime Street for the sake of it. So not actually that much has changed on the Liverpool and Manchester because it was already built to modern standards. So just the stations had to be rebuilt through Rainton, St Helens Junction. Earlstown's grew massively. Canyon Junction, Eccles, and we still have Manchester Exchange. It was a bit awkward putting that in because in reality that actually was, they were merged into the same station with one very long platform, but I can't quite put that in. Excuse me. What other early railways was there? Well, there's the Mansfield and Pinxton, which was this one here from Mansfield through Sutton Junction and Kirkby and Ashfield to Pinxton. That's just been upgraded to a main line and it's been used as a main line. Not really much to mention there. Are there any early ones that have closed? I don't think so yet. There's the Canterbury and Whitsterville. What's that doing there? Once again, change of rolling stock, and I think it's still getting used, but I think it is due to be closing soon. What other things can I mention? Well, there's the South Wales. I'm being stupid. Can you tell I don't plan these videos out? Let's look over some of the rail centres. So we've been to Newcastle. Let's look at the South Welsh valleys. Beginning in Newport, stretching up. It's. You don't know. It feels like I've barely done anything, but I've been working on this for what, 2 years now, probably more. But it's just because I keep doing it in small increments, and if I'd done this all at once, I would notice how long it took. But because I keep doing, like, say, one line, then going across and doing several other ones, and coming back to here, it just doesn't feel like it's much at all. This is just a huge spaghetti of tracks, though, but it makes sense. I forgot to put in the Cardiff Railway. Oh. Are you getting building materials? Ah, yes, you are. 6. Yeah, so the centre of the all the valley lines come out of Cardiff, but a good few go into Newport or Tondu or Port Talbot. I sound dead inside, I promise I'm not. It's just allergies, the warmth, my asthma. Moving on. Bristol doesn't have that much railways. It has Temple Meads and it has St Philip's Marsh Depot. There's the line to Avonmouth, but that's about it. There aren't really any suburban railways. Same with Birmingham. I mean, it has a network, but most of its outer suburban down to Redditch and Longbridge, all the way up to Walsall and Wolverhampton. I have put in all the freight trains around here, so hopefully we'll be seeing all these towns growing out. I might increase the town growth speed for the next series as well. The problem is I want the big cities to grow, like Birmingham and London, but I don't want to grow the small villages. For example, if you go down, one of the ones that's grown far too much is Wirksworth. There we go, that's one. Yeah, it's 340 in, it's overspill in the valleys. Matt, look, that's ideally that's the size it is geographically in terms of the actual not population but geography. Fill in this valley. That's about as much big as it is in the modern day. Same with Worksworth, so I don't really want them to grow anymore. But it's same with Bakewell. Stonewall, I don't want the village. Why is Glossop there? Why is Glossop not connected? Why did I forget that? Oh well. And look at this. Look at Rishworth. It's overspilling the valleys on Holywell Green. I don't want these towns to grow anymore, but I want the cities to grow, to just become a big metropolis. One city that is growing nicely is what was it? Ah, yeah, of course, Newcastle, because I don't know why Newcastle's growing so fast, but it is. It's actually the biggest city by far. Like 13,000 population. If you look at London, London is 6,000. So Newcastle's still twice as big as Newcastle. Oh no. Yeah, so I'll just have to trim this down once it reaches the size I want. But eventually, I want Newcastle and all these like Wall's End and Shields and Whitley Bay to kind of grow to all fill out most of this area here. So this is the size I want the cities to be at this stage, ideally. So I can go to settings and let's go to town growth. Town growth speed. Let's just put it on very fast. Screw it. Oh, I should probably increase that. If I put that up to, say, I don't know, 70, 50, that means that only the cities will grow. I didn't notice that, because I'm only supplying goods to the biggest cities, i.e. the ones that I actually want to grow. Because I'm not bothered about, say, Darlington increasing. The passengers will increase that by itself. I'll mess around with these. I'll mess around with these settings off camera. So let's have a look at where we're in Birmingham. So we've got two very big. Well, we've got two big stations in Birmingham. We'll have New Street and Moore Street. Now we have two smaller ones, Curzon Street, which isn't actually being used anymore, should probably convert to a good station, and Snow Hill, which is just being used as a through station. Wolverhampton is growing out nicely as well. We'll have all these industries in the area, lots of coal mines, lots of iron mines, lots of quarries. We'll have, this is actually just a petrol depot, but I put it in as a refinery because we all wanted the goods. We've got a steel mill down at Dudley. I'm going to be putting one in Wednesbury as well. Stoke's growing nicely as well. Eventually, hope it merges with Longton, Newcastle under Lyme, Tunstall, that kind of area to make the multi-city centred city it is today. Manchester's also growing quite nicely. I'm just having to go naturally. I'm not really placing roads that much. I only really place down roads if I want them to go in a specific direction. But I'm quite happy with how this is growing out anyway. It's already pretty much merged with Salford. Liverpool and Birkenhead is also coming on nicely. I eventually want them to come down to Garston, merge up with Halewood, and then up to Aintree, and that's nearly at Aintree already. Preston is ridiculously tiny. I'm really hoping that grows. That's why I put down roads here, because I just didn't want to encourage it to grow. Leeds and Bradford, they're also growing nicely. Leeds, the problem with Leeds is there's just no railways on the northern side of the city. That reminds me, at some point, either in a live stream or in the next series, I'll be putting in all the trams, all the massive tram networks that the city's had. The only reason I didn't include them so far is because I couldn't really find dates for every single tram line opening. But it's safe to say all the networks are open as of the grouping. So I'm just going to put all the networks in as they fully were, at the biggest extent in all the cities. Hopefully that'll encourage the cities to grow a bit more as well. Yes, I've put all these industries in for the West Yorkshire, but I haven't actually connected them up yet. Also, there's no music. I always forget to put the music on. It's because whenever I record the voiceovers, hang on, I'll get the volumes. I'll do. Whenever I record the voiceovers, it's too silent. I will put the music in post editing. So I'm just used to talking to silence. Oh, I just love the sound of my voice that much. What are you waiting for? Oh, they're waiting for you, and you're waiting for you. Let's see, I should put a passing loop up here. There you go, so now this one should be able to move as well. There we go. Just little things like that, because that will cause a big traffic jam if I'm not careful. Also, Oxen Hope screw loads as well, that's just far too big. In fact, I'm going to trim that down now. Hey, I was just here. Yeah, I spent a week in the Lake District, based in Coniston. But I just used an excuse to just go on all the railways in the area, another lakes line. I went on the Cumbrian coast, the Ravenglass and Eskdale, and the lakeside in Haverthwaite. Brampton's also grew massively just because I think it's based on the frequency of trains. And because this is just a tiny little shuttle going backward and forward, it's just classing that as a massive frequency. Same with Moffat. It's weird. Glasgow. Oh god, there's just so much text. Yeah, we've put the subway in, which is actually causing a lot of growth. One thing I'm annoyed about is I've had to put the subway in as trams. Because I couldn't fit an underground railway in here, especially with the already underground sections here. So hopefully that doesn't clash with the tram network that will also go into Glasgow. In Edinburgh, this is a park, so I've just kind of put a bunch of signs around here so the town doesn't grow over it. But Edinburgh's actually growing very nicely. It's already merging with Leith in Granton, and hopefully it'll merge its way out to Barnton and of course to Fian, Parkhead, that kind of area. I don't want to go any further than this hill, but hopefully I'm going to kind of I'm just looking at the geography of it. I'm looking at the geographical features that the city kind of grows to in the modern day, and kind of that's where I'm letting it grow to in game. See, Haddington, it's huge. And I've made the LMS broke. Would you look at that? That's a bit better. Not much to say about the Scottish cities. Stirling is massive, but I'm still relatively happy with this. But you can see where I've recently trimmed the city down, so I don't want Stirling to grow anymore. Actually, I might divert the freight trains from Stirling to a city that I do want to grow more, such as Dundee, because Dundee is huge. Perth's also growing nicely. Yeah, if you look at Dundee in reality, it's about twice this size, so I might divert some of the freight trains from Stirling or Perth to Dundee. I've already talked about Newcastle and Middlesbrough and Leeds and Bradford. Sheffield, it's just kind of blobbing a bit, so I'm not the happiest about that. For example, I think it doesn't go right up to this hilltop in reality, so I'll trim it down up here and kind of give it a more natural shape rather than just a big circle, because the towns in OpenTTD will just get a bigger and bigger circle if you don't stop them. But yeah, there's no railways on this side of the city centre in reality, so the trams will help them grow out this way, and then I'll put more trams out over here to help help them grow it this way to merge it with Meadowhall and Rotherham. Hopefully you don't have to kill Marsh as well. Chesterfield is tiny. I do want to grow Chesterfield a bit more. Derby and Nottingham, I've planned out freight services to go into these towns, but they are already growing quite nicely. Nottingham, I want to merge, grow out to merge with this size. Derby, just I'll see how that goes. That's about it for cities other than London and a few other ones, smaller ones like Norwich. I'll just start talking about city sizes for far too long. But plans for the next series: electrification, trams. Let's have a document. I'm gonna bring the all-knowing document up and see what else is in store. There's going to be some closures of the much more rural lines, because now this big company doesn't really care about competition. Yeah, so there's a lot of pre-grouping lines where after the grouping there was just two companies competing with themselves, so there's no point. For example, the two Ramsey branch lines. Let's have a look at this document. Yeah, so the main themes of the next one is going to be modernisation. We're going to see much bigger and better trains go out to compete with expresses, small branch line closures, and a few improvements. For example, the reason I've been holding off on doing the freight in Southampton is because of this railway down to Fawley hasn't been built yet. I think that was it from 1923 or something. Anyway, yeah. Thank you all very, very much for watching me on this this massive project. I'm going to start recording a bunch of cab rides and get ready for some live streams to finish up the freight. And from there, it's all downhill with closures and demolishing everything that I've spent the past 2 years doing. Thank you all very, very much for watching every episode if you have, or even if you just tuned in for 1 or 2 episodes. Thank you very much again. I know that the episodes are long and hard to follow. I don't know. I'd rather do that than kind of try to edit them down far too much and miss out all the content, because it is very, very monotonous and samey. Anyway, I'll keep you all updated. Maybe do a community post if I know you don't need like 1,000 subscribers to do that, don't you? So when we do community posts, maybe just small update videos here and there, and I'll just keep you updated on all the cab ride videos. Any questions you have, just drop them down in the comments. I'm happy to interact with all the comments and any questions you have. I can't thank you all enough. I'll see you in the next cab ride video, in the next scene.